a playlist original.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts Gaius and Jackson. This is a very special news edition episode
Yeah,
because
it feels like it's been a minute.
I know we promised you an all horror 2 months, September, October spooky season, and we are going to deliver that for you. But there was a lot of mainly trailers that dropped in the last week, and one big news item as well. And
Too
we didn't want
juicy
to
to pass
cram
up.
them. Yeah, and anyone to cram them into one of the other like horror theme episodes, as it would probably get too crowded and it kind of would overshadow some of these stories, and it would overshadow like whatever movie we chose to watch for spooky season, which I guess we don't even have to call spooky season anymore since Playlist made that video that said it called it like Tales of Horror, and I was like, I am down to pivot and change it to that. So
yeah, that was fantastic.
So that works too. So yeah, we wanted to be able to cover some of this stuff and not let you guys miss out on any news. This first one that we're gonna do was kind of too good to pass up, and it was interesting. It was interesting when we when it posted. I think I shared it on my Instagram, and so many people like sent messages because I think I captioned it like, "This is the least surprising news of the day."
Yes.
And then a lot of people, I think you were like, I fucking knew it. Like there's so many people kept sending messages like that.
Yes. So I remember, like, I can't remember how many episodes ago, but I literally said as much. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if one day we find out that, Rotten Tomatoes was kind of like corrupt in this sort of manner. But I didn't realize this was that so many people shared that philosophy. So I kind of feel, it's nice that people all it's just crazy that I didn't think that we would actually kind of have that sort of news break. But I'll let you lead the way on this because I remember your post and I read about this the day that news dropped, but I haven't seen or monitored if any other stuff has come out since then. So why don't you fill us in on exactly what happened with Rotten Tomatoes for those who don't know?
Well, sometimes every so often a big publication writes a expose about someone or something. I don't know if they're like waiting in the wings, just like, all right, we're gonna drop this right now when it seems like we really need to hear it. New York Magazine is the publication that did this time, and they did a very extensive report that suggests that Rotten Tomatoes scores can easily be manipulated, alleging specifically that a public relations firm called Bunker 15 has paid low-level, often self-published reviewers for positive write-ups as a way to game scores. One alleged example from the expose involved the 2018 movie Ophelia, a reimagined take on Shakespeare's Hamlet told from the point of view of his girlfriend, played by Daisy Ridley. The film reportedly had a 48% rotten rating, but after the PR company's alleged paid reviews, that was bumped up to a 62%, taking it from a green Rotten Tomato score to a red fresh one. These low-level reviewers were allegedly paid $50 a pop for changing their scores for their reviews. It should be noted that Bunker PR denied the alleged manipulation, telling New York Magazine in a statement, "We have thousands of writers in our distribution list. A small handful has set up a specific system where filmmakers can sponsor or pay to have them review a film." And then Rotten Tomatoes also said in the statement that they take the integrity of their scores seriously and do not tolerate any attempts to manipulate them. I don't agree with that.
I don't agree with it either, but I'm curious to see how like execs maybe at Rotten Tomatoes would really like find out if somebody, like an individual, was bribed or like otherwise coerced into manipulating a score. I bet that would happen under their noses plenty of times. Not that I understand how that company operates by any means, but I can see it being a pretty easy thing to miss. Behind the scenes, behind the curtain sort of tomfoolery, if you will. But yeah, not surprised to hear that at all. And I agree with you. I don't think that they really care about their scores. I feel like they're so inclined to give positive scores to particular studios or types of movies, especially in the last few years.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is, I can see this being easily being able to slip through the cracks in some sense. But I think what Rotten Tomatoes has done recently is, and if you're a critic and you are, you finally get approved to be on. You've done a certain amount of reviews within a year. You fit all the criteria. You write for a legit publication, or they even accept people who do like YouTube movie reviews, depending on how many they put out in a year.
Interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to get on, and if you're a reviewer, it is considered kind of a big for you step up if you're featured on the site. They used to be a little bit more careful and a little bit more selective about who they accepted, and I think in the attempt to kind of diversify the voices on the site, they've opened it up a lot more. And I think when you open up something a lot more, which is fine if you want different voices on your platform,
right?
But that means you have to like properly vet everyone that you bring on if you're opening the floodgates to kind of making it easier to get on the site. And I know that may be hard to kind of vet, but like,
yeah,
I think you should maybe pay attention to, a reviewer if they are giving 100% glowing reviews to like a specific studio or network, and that you have to kind of be like, all right, is this just like, do they really like what they're seeing, or
right.
if there's something else going on. And you don't want to assume the worst about anyone, but I think you just have to be careful and be sure about who you're bringing on and making sure that they're credible. And I think that is one way to kind of fix that problem. Rotten Tomatoes isn't going anywhere, of course. I mean, it's a huge site, and they're not the only site like this. You have Metacritic as well, and I mean, and I think a lot of people forget, like, a Rotten Tomato score shouldn't be a barometer for how good your movie is. Like, if it
absolutely not.
If it has a 75%, that means like 75% of critics gave it a positive review, and that doesn't mean that it got like a C+. That is just like the number of reviewers who reviewed it. 75% of them gave it a positive one. Or if it has a 33%, 33% gave it a negative review, and that's what it is. But they said that Rotten Tomatoes has become such an important part of the industry in its own way that studios pay a lot of attention to it, and consumers do too. They said 36% of most moviegoers look at Rotten Tomatoes and decide if they're going to see something based on the movie score. And you can, especially in the age of like Twitter, now X, or whatever social media platform you're on.
Cringe. I hate that so much. I will still be like similar to Max and HBO Max.
Oh, HBO Max.
X is still Twitter to me. Like, not that I use it too much, but still weird to say. But anyway, not to get off topic.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And in that age, a movie, you have preview screenings for a movie that opens wide on the weekend on a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Reviews spread quickly. Like within a day, if you had someone, they can be like, "Oh, this wasn't that good," and that affects the weekend box office. This is the reason why most studios, unless they're very, very confident in their film, hold the review embargo until almost the last minute, because they know, like, once the embargo's lifted and the reviews go out there and they hit Rotten Tomatoes, people quickly see them, and then it's like if they're negative, then it's like, oh, well, maybe I don't want to go see that, and it can really affect the overall performance of your film. I think they really believe that, and I think there is some truth to it. I mean, I think some people are like, oh, well, especially if they were on the fence about seeing it, they might be like, all right, well, it looks like it's bad, so I'm not going to go. And that's why it's important, I guess, to studios that these scores are positive, or if they can spin them any way they can, they will. I mean, I don't know if you notice with certain trailer TV spots, or sometimes they actually, either if it's a high Rotten Tomato score from critics, they will highlight that in the TV spot. Now, if your movie happened to get a bad Rotten Tomatoes critic score, but let's say that it got a really high audience score on the site, they will highlight that in the TV spot. So it's become a part of their marketing strategy as well.
Absolutely. And I don't blame them for taking advantage of the omnipotence of Rotten Tomatoes and how influential it has become. I think inevitably, though, if not yet, this will backfire. And I although it's definitely a Rotten Tomatoes is like the issue here for in terms of how it has influenced like people from like dissuading them from seeing a movie that maybe would have middling reviews. There's plenty of great movies that are in like the 60s that people might look at that and be like, oh, that's not certified fresh. I'm not going to bother going to see that. I think this stems from that overall. We've talked about this before. I'm sure we'll bring it up again. The overall like prevalence of like social media and how that you can't really escape these scores now because we're always on our phones, we're always on a screen, and people that are pushing this are going to take advantage of that and throw these scores at us, and it's going to influence people to go see something that they may not otherwise have seen. Because people, admittedly, I don't think definitely cinema goers and cinephiles would, but the average moviegoer, even as far as 7 to 10 years ago, weren't really taking the time to go look at, you know, a score like Rotten Tomatoes in their own free time like they do now, because they can't really escape it. Every DVD or Blu-ray you go find, if it's a certified fresh, it's slapped there right on the cover, and it's like, where has this come from? I don't really remember when Rotten Tomatoes in particular kind of took off, but it seems like you can't go anywhere without seeing the score anymore. And like someone like me, I don't really care. I'm going to see it because like it interests me, or there's people in the movie that I like, or it's from a director whose work I really like. The score almost means nothing. I find I don't agree with Rotten Tomatoes score more than 3/4 of the time, I find. So, but it's influential. I can't deny that.
Very influential, but I agree with you. We are both horror movie fans. Those tend to get, some of them tend to get really low Rotten Tomatoes scores. And I have enjoyed many horror films that have very low Rotten Tomatoes scores. I've enjoyed other movies that have, you know, pretty subpar Rotten Tomatoes scores. Hook is one of my favorite movies ever, and it has like a 14-15% on Rotten Tomatoes somehow, some way, but I don't care. Like it's still like one of my favorite movies. So like it doesn't really matter to me. I do know a lot of people it matters to. They really
certainly
set their movie going calendar kind of based on like
it kind of annoys me, honestly. Like I know, that movie apparently sucks. Like it has such and such Rotten Tomato score. I'm like, that means literally nothing. Go see the movie if you're interested in it.
Right. I did want to ask you, since Cam is usually like your movie going buddy, does he care about Rotten Tomatoes at all?
No, we are pretty much on the exact same page when it comes to that sort of thing. And we both notice like how, I mean, not to sound like to beat a dead horse, but Marvel movies in particular, I find they jack up those Rotten Tomato scores on there. And most of the time we don't understand why. Like I was just looking up like Shang-Chi, which is a movie in particular. There's aspects of that movie I like, but it has a 92. I'm like, that movie, that's like two less than The Dark Knight. I know it's hard to compare movies like that, but just so out of whack for me. So that's just an easy example I like to float back to. I had to look it up because at one point I thought it was higher than The Dark Knight, which I would have thought would be ludicrous.
You're about to throw chairs, man.
Exactly. But that when it comes to Rotten Tomatoes, we see eye to eye for sure. But I also don't find myself going really out of the way to notice it. I'll see the tomato on a TV spot, like you said, or on a new release DVD or something, and I'm like, okay, I don't even really care.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately for what I do, it's essential to the job. I have to check it.
Of course.
I don't really check it for myself.
And if you did, no judgment.
Right. I have noticed that it's gotten out of hand recently, and this is for positive reviews and negative. Like the review embargo will open up, and there'll be like 5 reviews so far posted on the site. And let's say, well, we're going a real positive end. It's 100%.
Right.
And then you'll have people already posting on Twitter like, look, it has the 100% French rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm like, there's only 5 reviews, and like, give it time. Or even on the opposite end of that, hey, there's 10 reviews, and it's got a 40%.
Right.
All right, that's not great, but there's only 10 reviews. It might turn around and get positive, and then it becomes like you're almost like updating it as it's going up or down, like on their feed. Like, you know, that's how like into it they are. But I think studios see that, and they're like, you know, it is so important. And I thought this was another interesting thing too. They said, you know, even if you were to believe Bunker 15 or Rotten Tomatoes about either not paying reviewers to manipulate scores, and that Rotten Tomatoes cares about the integrity of their site and doesn't tolerate manipulation of their scores. They said, that said, there are ways that studios themselves can strategize their rollouts to manipulate Rotten Tomatoes scores, though not always intentionally and sometimes to their own detriment. By way of example, New York Magazine points out the scores for Blonde and The Whale. Festival crowds overseas love them, boosting their Rotten Tomatoes scores for weeks in the 80s. But when American critics and audiences were finally able to screen the film, The Whale landed at 64 and Blonde at 42. Conversely, Disney's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny initially had a low rating of 33% after premiering at the snootiest Cannes Film Festival for 6 weeks before its screening stateside. After that period, when it was finally screened for American audiences, its score actually rose into the 70s, and then
God.
But they said the damage was already done, and the film turned around disappointing box office numbers.
Right.
So yeah,
that 70 whatever percent, it still does something to help that movie, and it's that divide of like 40% or more between its premiere at Cannes and debut in America. That is suspect for sure. That's red flag. Sad to hear that. I'm not surprised. I feel because it was no secret. We brought this up when Blonde premiered. It was not in favor with a lot of, the mass audiences, at least over here in the West. I can't say about elsewhere. I hear that you say that it was popular in Europe. I loved that movie. I thought it was fantastic. And I feel like it was in vogue to kind of bring that score down and to review that movie negatively at the time. Exactly. Yeah. And it's really unfortunate because that, there will be plenty of, whether you're new to discovering movies and you're using scores to really judge what is worth your time and what not, or if it's just something that you take to heart, there will be tons of people that will now ignore what I think would be objectively a fantastic biopic because of a score that was manipulated. And that's really unfair to everyone that made the movie and, the legacy of that film, which is just sad.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I thought this is also another interesting take on this. They said, they pointed out, do you think Rotten Tomatoes is biased? They said, in theory, no, but in practice, it might be. In 2019, the Columbia Journalism Review found that most Rotten Tomatoes reviewers skewed white and male, which reportedly tended to negatively impact overall scores of films that women critics liked. Rotten Tomatoes has since reportedly added more women, more people of color, and more people representing the LGBTQ plus community to its roster, but the majority are still white males. And they said, interpret that data how you will.
Right. Well, and that's important to highlight. That's absolutely a factor. And it's good that they've included, people from outside of that criteria. So fantastic on their behalf. That being said, I couldn't agree more with that. Who was quoted as saying that? I think that in theory, no, in practice, maybe. That is a perfect way to sum that up, because nothing can be inherently biased. It's a conglomerate of thousands or hundreds. I'm not even sure how many critics, and obviously not everyone is going to give in to that, but inevitably if some do, it's going to taint a score. But yeah, I like that, how that was put, like in theory no, in practice maybe. I like that.
Yep. And I think it's interesting as Rotten Tomatoes themselves, I couldn't, other than that little comment from New York Magazine where they didn't really elaborate on this any further. They didn't really talk about like, hey, maybe if they found out that some of their reviewers on the site were being paid to fluff their numbers, if what they would do. I think, if anything, because Rotten Tomatoes isn't going to go anywhere, but if they do find the parties that did this, kick them off your site and ban them forever being able to be on there anymore.
Oh,
they won't be able to come back. That's one way to show that you care about the integrity of your website.
Absolutely.
And I think other than that, there's nothing really else you can do.
Agreed. Like, what can you do?
I think we've kind of said this in a lot of different ways, but I think at the end of the day, like, people should stop giving so much weight to the site as a whole. I think that's a lot of what can be fixed. And if you want to go see something, who cares if it has a 15%? Like, if you've been dying to see it,
right?
Like, you might enjoy it. You might be part of that that other half that's like, oh, I thought it was good.
It's important to make up your own mind and not just blindly listen to a score.
Right. And and in the past, I know I've been guilty of like being surprised by a score. Like, oh, I thought that was going to be higher.
Yeah, sure. I even feel that way too.
And then I'm sometimes surprised when it's like really high. I'm like, oh wow. And then you get kind of excited when it's like, oh, this is getting like kind of universal acclaim. I mean, like, we're gonna do an episode for our horror movie stuff about The Wailing. I think that's one of the first things I said to you when I looked it up, because I had never heard of it or saw it, and I was like, oh, it has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, and like that was like one of the first things I brought up to you. I mean, I guess it makes you kind of sound like a hypocrite. I'm like, oh, don't put so much weight into it. And then that's one of the first things I said to you. But I mean, what I mean is go see something anyway, no matter what the score is. Like, don't let it deter you from going to see anything that you want to see.
Exactly.
Because you know, you might find some enjoyment in it. And if you don't, then like that's just one movie you'll never have to watch again. Like, they were right. Or not they were right, but most of the critics on that site were right. I think a lot of people, when they think of Rotten Tomatoes, they always kind of label it as like, oh, Rotten Tomatoes was right. This was bad. And like, no, this was like a bunch of critics on their site that, you know,
precisely
gave their various opinions. There's also one really weird thing about Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know what constitutes what gets the rotten or positive review, because there's been times where
I was going to ask you that. I'm not sure either.
There's been times when like the little blurb, it reads kind of rotten, and then they'll have like a fresh rating against it.
Interesting.
Like, all right, like that sounded kind of negative. And then like sometimes it'll be the other way around. So I don't even know what the criteria is for, you know, this was a positive, or who determines like when they're reading it, oh, this was positive, or if it's mixed, how they kind of see where that goes.
Right.
You know, all these, you know, things that I'm sure most people will like try to dissect and like dive into further now that this, you know, there are a handful of people who weren't surprised when they heard the story. There are other people that were like kind of surprised and like were like, oh, like you should take Rotten Tomatoes to task for allowing something like this.
Right.
But I think most people that work in the industry, especially as press and people who review movies, weren't surprised.
Right.
And it's not even just a Rotten Tomatoes game. I mean, like, dude, it's so I get kind of embarrassed. So I had to review The Nun 2 for another website, and I didn't love it.
Okay.
And you know, they wanted to, of course, the website's like, hey, as soon as the embargo lifts, send over the review so we can post it like right away. So it goes up right at 9 a.m. on Friday, which is not a good sign because that's the day it opened.
Yikes.
And then, you know, whenever you're exchanging emails with like, you know, the PR people for the studio, they're like, they're the ones setting you up with, you know, this is the time that the screening goes, like, oh, you're approved for you and a guest. It's this whole like very nice interaction. And then the people who publish your review, you have to let the PR person know that the review is live. And I was like, you know, I'm CC'd in that email, and it's like, hey, just to let you know that Gaius's review of The Nun is live. Thank you for letting us cover it. But I'm thinking to myself, like, that review is negative, and that's like, they're gonna open it like,
yikes, awkward.
Yeah, right. So like that's awkward. But I think that why I brought that up is that some sites, because they want to maintain a relationship with certain studios, I think tend to lean positive, so they don't mess up getting any kind of more perks from these studios, like whether it's access to advanced screenings, premieres, any of that, you know, kind of press junkets for interviews. I won't say which site or if I currently work for them or don't work for them anymore, or whether it's past or present. I've been asked not to like change a review or make it more positive, but I've been asked if they send like 4 of us to go see a movie, they will ask which one of the 4 liked it the most, and sometimes they will pick the person who liked it the most and then post that review up.
Interesting.
And that is sometimes just to, I guess, you know, keep a kumbaya amongst the.
I get there,
which I don't agree with. Actually, I get the logic, but I don't agree with that in practice either. I think it's kind of like
exactly. People
are reading these things. Yeah, right. We were reading these things because like they trust your word on like what, you know, whether it's good or bad, and it shouldn't matter. But like you said, I agree with the logic. It's just really it was a strange position to be like, all right, well, I guess pick number 4 because he liked it more. So
clearly showing what kind of message they want to be pushing for a movie or whatnot. What I am interested to see if what will happen, and I don't necessarily anticipate this happening, but I'm curious to see if there will be any other sort of like, and I would imagine if so, they will be anonymous, but if any other whistleblowers sort of come through or anonymously admit to like if they had ever delved into this practice, and so we can kind of get a sense for how commonplace this issue really is, because we only have this one little blurb to go off of, which is like this expose. It's sort of brand new, but I'm curious to see if this will have a snowball effect. And I don't exactly expect anyone to publicly come forward and say that they have fudged reviews for money, because I don't know like what the ramifications for someone would be. Obviously, they would be very much not taken seriously as a reviewer. But I will be curious to see if this will really influence anybody else to kind of come out of the shadows and shed insight on how popular this practice really is. So I'm sure in the coming weeks or months, we might hear some more about this, or if any other sites are guilty of having this done, and to what degree do the people that make the decisions, are they aware of this? I'm sure, at least I think, this will not be the end of this story. There might be more to come, but very interested to see where that all goes.
I agree with you, and because I've never seen this movie Ophelia that Daisy Ridley was in. That was kind of used as like the main example. But I imagine, and this is just my opinion, that the goosing of the numbers probably happens with bigger movies more than smaller ones. And like I'm talking like the Marvel, DC, like tentpole big movies. I can see that even happening Disney more. As a whole. So right, and that would be interesting to see that if like in over time, if you'll find out that bigger projects actually did this, and what that all means. I mean, everyone was making jokes on Twitter and stuff about how like, well, that explains the early reviews for The Flash and like blah blah blah. There's all this other stuff, like for other bigger movies too. And I wouldn't be surprised if it happens more often with bigger movies. There's more at stake. There's more money. They cost more to make, so there's more like there's a bigger potential for a loss. If reviews are so bad that it keeps people away.
And if like Rotten Tomatoes is in cahoots with a studio like Disney and they have an incentive to get people in seats, and it only makes sense that they're going to try and influence people to go in there. To what degree are they in cahoots? I'd be curious to know, if at all, and what studios they are sort of unofficially partnered up with. But it's just sad to see that like something that is fundamentally supposed to be like reviewing art is supposed to be subjective. So the fact that it can be manipulated and not be that way is just dirty, and it's unfortunate that it happens. And you got to kind of be naive to think it doesn't happen, at least in some capacity, but to see it out there in the open and to kind of realize the impact that it would have on art is unfortunate, to say the least.
And I saw online, I don't know who said, I wish I can give them credit, but I mean, I'm sure other people have said it, like someone basically called Rotten Tomatoes like the Yelp for movie reviews. And there's certain things like if you go to a restaurant, you see that the Yelp score is like not great, right? But you might not have a negative experience there. Exactly. Like that person might have had one, and that might have been legit, but who's to say that yours will be? So like again, it's one of these things that like this thing is there, and like it's there to provide some kind of service of like, hey, this is a collection of reviews on this thing. But you have to go to these things yourself to have your own experience, I guess. And that's kind of, even if you want to compare it to something like that, it all comes down to your own judgment at the end when you decide to see something. I mean, overall, you shouldn't let the opinions of others influence what you go see.
Exactly. So bottom line, at the end of the day, don't rely on solely a score to determine if you're going to either, because I know people would probably just naturally, people that aren't thinking critically about the movies, and you can't expect everyone to deep dive and analyze every movie they watch, especially not people that don't love it in the sense that creators like us do. But I know there's people out there that just kind of blindly agree. They'll watch a movie, look at the score, and be like, oh yes, that's how it was. At the end of the day, watch the movie because you want to watch it. The score should not matter. And if it does matter to you, maybe think about its role in your enjoyment of movies and what you're going to try and watch. Because at the end of the day, that's really not an important part of the movie. It's whether you liked it or not.
Yep, I agree. And if there's more to report on this later,
we
will definitely let you know. In the meantime, we have a few trailers to kind of run down kind of quickly.
Eight trailers dropped in the last couple of weeks, all of which varying degrees of I guess likability, but I don't think there was a single trailer in here I didn't like. I don't know about you, but I was really excited to dive into these. It's been a while since we covered significant amount of trailers.
So this was I actually agree with you. Like most of them I did enjoy. I'm going to start with one of the scary ones because we're in spooky season,
and it's half and half, I think.
So we've both voiced our concerns about the Exorcist believer off the first trailer that we saw, which
right.
I think we both were like, hey, it looks like almost any other
Carbon
demonic
copy,
possession movie
yeah,
and not really like a legacy sequel to The Exorcist. Well, they released a second one. I watched it first online, and then they showed it ahead of our screening for The Nun 2. This one, I will say, was better. I thought
agree.
It was better than the first trailer. It also, with the crowd, played a lot better than that other trailer I've been playing.
Okay.
I saw it seemed to enjoy it a bit more. This actually looked scarier in parts, where like there was actually some really cool like imagery, kind of freakish imagery that they were kind of showing in it. A little bit more of Ellen Burstyn in this one too, as well. Some people have talked negatively about that because they're getting the vibe that they're going to waste her and that maybe the role's not as important as it seems. We don't know yet because we haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it made me feel a bit better about it than I had before.
Agree. Yes, I was going in skeptical. I mean, I'm not going to say this movie completely. I didn't flip flop for this movie that I'm going in now expecting it's going to be, the horror movie of the year. I still have my reservations about David Gordon Green reviving another classic series. However, yeah, I completely agree. This trailer I thought was leaps and bounds better than the first one. Even if I don't enjoy it as an Exorcist sort of canonical movie, I think it at least will have the potential to freak me out in a couple places, much more so than I thought the first trailer did. I'm so glad we didn't see that scene again of whatever the other little girl in the church repeating that line.
The body and the blood.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, glad they left that part of this trailer.
I got Evil Dies Tonight vibes from that.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And like the stuff they showed with the girls being possessed was a little better than the first trailer that they released. I mean, it's not like it's like some unique story thing to do this, but I did love the kind of button towards the end of it where it's like, you have to choose which girl lives and which girl dies. I thought that was like a really cool thing to end on. I was like, all right, I guess that's kind of like the importance of having two girls being possessed. That could be a potential there
you go,
question that you have to have, you have to, if you will. I just thought it looked a lot better, and again, this is only based on like 2 minutes and some change of footage, but I mean, it definitely played much better. I like I said, in front of an audience, they seemed to really enjoy this trailer more than the other one.
This trailer 2 is important, especially when your first trailer doesn't exactly resonate, or if it's even at least in the middle. Whereas like a lot of people, I'm sure we're not the only people. It seemed like my theaters that saw the first Exorcist trailer weren't sold either. Trailer 2 is important when you have a reaction like the first one. And so for it to be positive, that's great momentum for the movie. To the movie or the trailer's credit too, even though this scene that I'm about to mention is cliche in a possession movie where you sort of get a sequence of like one of the girls is like clearly, doing her possessed shit and talking like a demon. And then she kind of reverts to her old self and is like speaking to the parents. And the scene where she goes like, she's like, I don't want to go to hell. Like that shook me.
Yeah. I got chills.
Yeah. I was like, fuck, man, that's scary. And that sort of scene has been done probably in every possession movie ever made, but like just how they're playing with that little trope, I thought that was super well done and freaky line. Really interested to see that part. So I'm more inclined to see this movie now.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure they had the second trailer planned. I think it probably maybe debuted a little earlier because they bumped up the release date to October 6th because they had to run away from Taylor Swift and her and her concert movie that's opening on the 13th of October.
Right.
But I'm guessing based on what is September 11th, the day we're recording. I can't imagine maybe we might get a final one. I hope maybe not though. I mean,
I hope not. Jesus.
So that's why, I think this second trailer is important because like this that had to sell someone like us who are like, I don't really know about this yet, and it kind of seemed like it won us over. So like that's a good job on trailer number 2.
When was the original release date? It got bumped. Was it a week? It got
Yeah,
bumped.
so it was
Okay.
October 13th. It was October 13th. It was perfect. It was going to open on Friday the 13th, which was like a good day to open your horror
Yes,
movie.
that's right. I remember you saying that. But yeah, I still feel like this trailer comes a little early for, I don't know if this is like the normal, but a whole month before. And that could lead to a third trailer. I really hope not. Maybe a couple TV spots, but I'm hoping that we have seen the end of the market, or not the end of the marketing, but the end of like the new trailers for this movie, just to not throw everything out there. But it still feels like
Yeah.
we could have got this trailer in a couple weeks just to stoke,
Yeah.
excitement and anticipation. But I don't know if I'm right in saying that or not. But yeah, I'm hoping that there's not too much more Exorcist believer thrown at us. I think the second trailer does its job great and pivoted me at least. And yeah.
Yeah. And both of you and I are both fans of like not giving us too much before a movie comes out. There doesn't need
Right.
to be like, we like this, I think it was yesterday or over the weekend. I hate when Aquaman 2 is doing this. They release a teaser for their trailer that's coming out in 4 days. So like when your trailer gets a teaser,
Like,
I
come
think that's
on.
really ridiculous. And like, it's
Agreed.
just becomes too much. I mean, at least Aquaman 2 is actually coming out. They're releasing a trailer, so I guess that's proof.
Right. I hope it's not moved any later. Like, just get it out already.
But I only need like 2, and I don't mind TV spots because I'm not really on like regular TV that much where I would catch a lot of TV spots.
Exactly.
So I really actually don't. I don't really mind when they release those, and sometimes a 30-second ad is fine. Like it doesn't. You can't really show too much in a TV spot that's detrimental to like, oh, they gave away too many things, so that's fine. But like 2 trailers, a couple TV spots, and I think that's all you need before the movie comes out.
Segueing off
else?
that. Oh, sorry. I didn't know yet. Yeah.
You're good.
Speaking of trailers that show too much, man, I'm so conflicted about this next one I wanted to bring up. It's also one of the scarier ones. So I had not heard anything about this movie until we were deciding to cover the trailers, but No One Will Save You, which again, I don't have the release date off the top of my head for when this one's coming out. So another spooky.
September
22nd.
On Hulu.
Yes.
On Hulu.
Awesome trailer, but I'm so conflicted because like halfway through, it's for those that haven't seen it. I mean, consider skipping this if you want to go in blind. Just spoiler alert: this movie or this trailer gives so much away. It's like pitches a home invasion movie with maybe like a supernatural twist, and that supernatural twist is still there by the end of the trailer, but it very much flip-flops for what sort of supernatural twist it's going to be, and in my opinion shows way too much. I think the first minute of that trailer was perfect. I was hooked, and then I saw the direction that trailer goes. I'm like, why are you showing us this? It really took me out of it. I mean, it looks great. I want to see that movie, but you know what I'm talking about? What was your reaction to that?
So trailer? I had this first. I had the same. So I didn't even hear this movie coming out until we got. Whenever these trailers are coming out, we get emails that they're coming.
Right.
And when we got the one from Hulu, I was like, I didn't even know this was like on the docket, I guess. So all right, so I watched it, and like the first minute is very like, oh, kind of really can't tell what's going on. You think it's one thing, and it's like, all right, it's setting up kind of like this kind of ambiguous kind of thing that's going on. And then it seems like it becomes more obvious as it goes on, and then they show too much. It still was a good trailer. Like I was intrigued enough to be like, oh, I want to see it.
Yep.
And then of course, I go to the bottom of the email and they have like the poster for the movie, and I was like, all right, I guess the poster gives away like what this is.
See, I haven't seen that.
But I kind of like the idea of like the kind of twist on the whole home invasion trope a bit. And it looks like, this is going to be like Caitlin Dever's show pretty much. She's pretty much like the central figure in this movie. And I kind of like the idea of like kind of like a little bit, it's something like it's a little bit more like bare bones and not too many people, and like I like that idea a lot, and I'm guessing one location, so like for the most part, if anything, I was concerned that they'd show too much as it went on. But I also was just excited because I had no idea this movie was coming, and it looks really interesting. At least there's that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm looking forward to it.
I didn't kill my excitement by seeing too much, and like I just think that if they had revealed this twist within the confines of the movie, like seeing it for the first time, I think that would have paid off so much better than just kind of laying it all in front of you in the trailer. Like you already know what sort of movie this is going to be, and it's not your typical home invasion movie.
Right.
So it's kind of frustrating in that sense, but I still think it looks great. And I also love, this is one of, I think there's one trailer I only saw the one time and I can't remember, but this is at least one of 2 trailers that we're covering today that was for the most part lacking dialogue completely. And I love that in a trailer, and especially
it's
a teaser.
Like all action.
Yeah. And I'm like, just set the scene without having any exposition in there. I think if a trailer does that well, it's a hallmark of a good trailer. So overall, like positive reaction to this one, but just a little frustrating that they showed much too much.
Yeah, and the person who wrote and directed this is Brian Duffield, and he's interesting because he wrote Love and Monsters, which I liked. Then he did Underwater, which I didn't like. Ooh. And then he did like the Babysitter, which was like a Netflix kind of horror comedy, which was really fun. He wrote that.
Okay.
So he's kind of can be all over the place, but this looks very promising.
Yes,
so
agreed.
I'm intrigued by it, and I'm looking forward to it. Kind of happy. I support theatrical releases, but I'm happy that I watch this at home.
Yeah,
and enjoy it on Hulu. And right. I think another positive one of the trailers that we are covering today.
Yes,
I enjoyed it.
On that note, since I did that one, which one do you want to jump to next? There's so many good ones still left.
Yeah, you know what? We'll keep the horror thing going because I was actually really excited for this one. Because I don't know. So if you saw Grindhouse in 2007, which was like the dual Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez movie, the first half being Planet Terror and the second half being Death Proof. In the middle of the movie, for a true Grindhouse experience, they had a bunch of different directors direct these like fake like movie trailers that were played in the middle of the actual film. If you saw it in theaters, you saw it in all its glory. If you had to wait for a little bit when it came out on Blu-ray because they separated the movies and didn't have the trailers, and then eventually they released it as one, and you were able to watch it the way
I did not know this.
The way it was intended. There are some fun ones in there. Rob Zombie did one. A few other directors did one, but Eli Roth did one called Thanksgiving, and it kind of is playing on like a little bit Halloween. And if you watch the original trailer for 1978's Halloween and the way it's kind of cut, and then you watch Eli Roth's fake trailer for Thanksgiving, it's very much influenced by that. Okay. And of course, this is another like holiday themed slasher movie. In this case, it taking place on Thanksgiving. The whole trailer was like completely funny, and that was the one trailer that stood out the most. And everyone was like, "Hey, I want that fake movie to be a real movie." And for years and years and years, people were like, "When are you going to make Thanksgiving?" And he really wanted to, but there wasn't much. He felt, I guess, not a lot of interest. It's hard to tell when there's like a groundswell of like nerd interest and how much beyond that there might be. In this case, it's like, hungry horror fans. I mean, they are still they drive a lot of box office business. So it could be enough to build that kind of excitement where it's like, all right, we can make this and see what happens. And it'll be a pretty cheap investment. It won't be that expensive. But yeah, that was in 2007. And now
that's crazy.
2023, and we're finally getting Thanksgiving this year, November 17th, and they released a short teaser for the film. It had various shots that are featured in the Grindhouse trailer, just kind of reshot and redone, of course, with newly added people. Patrick Dempsey is in it. Patrick Dempsey, I guess, like the big get for the movie is this girl named Addison Rae, who I felt old and had to look her up. But I guess she's a social media personality. She's big on like TikTok and stuff.
Yes, that kind of concerns me, but whatever.
Yeah. So in August 2020, I guess she was ranked as the highest earning TikTok personality by Forbes. And then like a year later, she made the Forbes 30 under 30 list. So the reason I'm bringing that up is I think having her in it might also be like, hey, people will go see it even more because she's there.
Yes.
She also was in the I forgot about this. She was in the gender swapped remake of She's All That. She was in He's All That. So she doesn't really have like a ton of acting experience, but
or I don't imagine talent either. But I mean, it's her influence is definitely unbridled. Makes sense. I do remember when TikTok was first blowing up, she was all over the place, and it was kind of annoying. And I kind of actually forgot. I recognized her name, seeing it in the credits there. I was like, where do I know that from? And I know that she had done a couple probably shitty Netflix movies or something. But anyway, I get the logic in casting her in this. I'm just not exactly. I don't know I'm not holding my breath for any Oscar worthy performance from her. But interesting choice for sure.
Yeah, and I mean I get it from a promotional standpoint. Yeah, and but yeah, we finally got the trailer, and in case people don't know what it might be about, the premise says a mysterious serial killer known only as John Carver comes to Plymouth, Massachusetts, with the intention of creating a Thanksgiving carving board out of the town's inhabitants. It's supposed to be very tongue-in-cheek, purposely, I think.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm excited for it because I just remember what it was like to see that fake trailer when we saw Grindhouse,
right?
And that was the one that was like, oh, that was funny. We also wanted to see that movie, and of course the only downside, this looks very polished. At least the fake trailer in Grindhouse had the whole Grindhouse aesthetic. It was it looked like it came from that era,
grainy,
grainy and all that. So this is very much polished.
Yep.
Sony Pictures production. So that's fine. But I'm glad that the teaser was short and sweet. I mean,
it did.
It did enough for me to be like, oh, I'm glad that's coming. I mean, there wasn't anything in it that made me go that was really cool. Right. But it was enough to be like, oh, I'm glad we're getting this, and we're getting it fairly soon. And
it was for the teasers that we're covering. I think that was the most effective one. It did exactly what it's supposed to do without showing us really. There's nothing you can put together there and draw any conclusions. You're just getting exactly as the name suggests, a teaser set in Thanksgiving slasher movie. Also, I didn't know anything about this, and I've seen both Death Proof movies, but like you mentioned, on separate discs, didn't see it together. Definitely didn't see it in theaters in 2007. So I was completely unaware of that, even any of those fake trailers. So that is super cool. I'm gonna watch that after we're done talking about it, because that is pretty neat, and I would be all over that had I known about that prior to this trailer. That ups my excitement. I gotta go check that out. That's a really cool little tidbit.
Yeah, they're all really funny. Nicolas Cage is in one that I think you'll find pretty funny.
No way.
That's in one of the fake trailers. They're all really good.
I love that Rob Zombie did one too. That makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Thanksgiving one stood out the most because it seemed like out of all of them, the most feasible one that could probably become a movie. Especially if you originally I thought that maybe they would throw it back and kind of set it 80s, kind of trying to make it that kind of thing. But it's good the way that they're handling it. And for everyone that wants to know who directed the other fake trailers in Grindhouse, Rob Zombie did one, Edgar Wright did one, Eli Roth, of course, and then Jason Eisner also did one. And the names of the fictitious trailers out. Okay, this is where we first saw Machete, so that was a fake trailer. On Grindhouse. Robert Rodriguez did that one, of course. Rob Zombie did Werewolf Women of the SS.
That I might have seen actually before. That rings a bell.
Edgar Wright did Don't, which is also a really funny trailer too. It kind of plays on the whole 1970s Hammer House horror films. And Eli Roth did Thanksgiving, and then Jason Eisner did Hobo with a Shotgun. So they're all very fun to explore.
Did that become a movie, or was that only?
It did in 2010 with Rutger Hauer.
Yes. No way it was him. I forgot all about that. Yeah, I didn't realize that was spawned from that either. Okay, so I know more about these fake trailers than I guess I thought I did. I just didn't know anything about their existence prior to them becoming movies. But that's cool that Thanksgiving is now joining the ranks. Wow, that is an enlightening moment for me. I have no idea.
Cool. So November 17th is when Thanksgiving hits theaters.
Okay.
So what do you got next?
Man, the one that probably surprised me the most, actually now I say that I'm taking that back. Saltburn actually got me. I really like that one, but the Bikeriders, I did not know. If I did ever see the synopsis of this movie way back in the day, maybe when it was filming, I had completely forgotten, but Tom Hardy, Austin Butler, Michael Shannon, Jodie Comer, all in a 70s, 80s set, motorcycle gang movie, like looks fantastic. That trailer was incredible. Tom Hardy with that Chicago accent. Like I haven't seen him lead something in like a couple of years. It feels, other like Venom movies aside, because that doesn't count. I was happy to see him back.
That's hilarious. Sorry.
Awesome. Yeah, no,
they don't matter.
I mean, at the time he was cast in that, I'm like, that's sick. That's going in the right direction, but fuck no, I'm not considering that. It's a waste of his talent. But anyway, glad to see him back leading something, especially something like gritty like this. And Austin Butler still riding that high after Elvis and his work with Tarantino. Really looks great in this movie. And Jodie Comer too, who I'd last seen in the last Duel, Ridley Scott's 2021 movie. I think she was in something else pretty like recently too that was good, but I can't remember what it was, if I'm not making this up. But
she's a solid actress.
Yeah,
the whole cast is amazing.
Yeah, and for someone of Michael Shannon's caliber, we get a little glimpse of him in this trailer and nothing else. So like that's pretty. I'm sure the supporting cast is going to go quite deep too, if we're not even seeing any of him in this movie.
Right.
But really liked the trailer for the Bikeriders.
By the way, Jodie Comer is so diverse in her acting skill that she was able to do The Last Duel and Free Guy in the same year. Two very different movies, two very different performances, and she was good in both.
Didn't know she was in that. Okay, great.
Yeah. This is directed by Jeff Nichols, who directed Take Shelter, Mud, Matthew McConaughey, Midnight Special, and Loving. These are all movies that have gotten various of critical acclaim.
Yeah.
And Midnight Special and Loving came out in 2016, so it's his first movie since then.
Oh wow!
And this is also based on it's a fictional story inspired by the 1967 photo book of the same name by Denny Lyon. It premiered at the 50th Telluride Film Festival on August 31st to positive reviews. I read online right now it has that's funny that we mentioned Rotten Tomatoes. Right now it has a 92% Rotten Tomatoes, but that's with 12
I would
critics,
believe that for this movie. Yeah,
I would too. 12 critics have released their reviews for it already. What I read though for people that attended this festival is that it depends on the competition. They said it's very good, but they don't know if it'll be an awards player. It'll just depend on competition.
Okay,
yeah, they say it's very good,
and it's gonna be a stacked year for competition. But I immediately got the impression that this is gonna be one of those like sneaky movies that was going to eat up a lot of Oscar contention without anybody knowing. It kind of just came out of nowhere. Which is unfortunate that it's coming out in this year, because like I feel like a lot of the nominations are going to be shoe-ins, and there's still lots of great stuff to come out. But this movie it has everything that I want in it, and I'm very excited for it. What's the release date on this? I didn't bother looking any of those up, unfortunately, and I can't remember now.
The release date is December 1st, which honestly that release date shows that they're like, hey, we kind of want to see if it can be an awards player. Like it's being released in that sweet spot. It looks like it could be one, but I mean, yeah, again, I guess it would depend on competition. I like the trailer from start to finish. I thought it was really good. One of my buddies though, like sent me a message after he watched it, and he was like, man. He's like, I have this feeling that Austin Butler is like a method actor, and I just feel like he's just like probably. I can just see him like staying in character the entire time. He's like, something about that bothered me, but other than that, I do want to see the movie.
For sure, and I think he is a little I think he's destined to be great. That guy, even though I did not care for his star-studded, I liked his performance as Elvis, but I hated the movie he was in. I think even that aside. He's going places like that, and he's on the map now, and this is just going to be another great step in his career. But he definitely strikes me as a method actor as well, but I can appreciate that, I guess. I like that we differ on that, but no, for sure. I'm excited for that one.
This would have been like he would have had two big movies if they hadn't moved Dune to next year.
Yeah, true that. Well, that's going to be probably good, like two back-to-back years of undoubtedly great performances, so that can probably help more than hurt,
and good for him. I mean, I know I had feelings about Elvis too, but I thought he was great in it. And to follow that up with this and then that, I mean, that's pretty solid on his part. And like I agree with you too. I miss Tom Hardy being in something good. So this will be because
I love that guy.
I'm excited for this one. we haven't said anything negative about anything.
Negative about anything. I don't think there's anything in here negative, at least from my point of view. But side note though, is Telluride? I've always wondered this. Is that a city in Arizona? Is that where that place is? Is that where the film festival is?
I should know that. Oh, Colorado.
Oh, it's in Colorado. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, not too far, but okay. I was for some reason thought it was there, but I thought it was in Europe until recently, and I was like, wait a minute. Anyway, glad you did. Thank you for answering that for me. That's been itching at me.
I got you. All right, so it's you.
It's up. Yep, it's you.
All right, since you already mentioned it, because I was going to mention it anyway. Saltburn is another one of the trailers that premiered while we were taking the break from the news, and I watched it, and then it was over, and I immediately knew I was going to be all in on it because it looks it looks really interesting. Also looks like it could potentially be batshit crazy. From some people I know who have seen it, they said that it is, and that they expect it to be pretty polarizing and very divisive. And there's a lot of stuff in it that's like very shocking to see.
Okay, give me that. That's awesome.
But like they said that this one guy who reviewed it, and I know this might turn some people off, but like I was like, oh, this sounds perfect. This one guy said it's like if Cruel Intentions and the Talented Mr. Ripley had a baby. And I was like, oh
wow, I love that.
I was like, all right, I'm in on that. That sounds good. But for those that don't know, it's a psychological thriller drama written, directed, and produced by Emerald Fennell, who had a big theatrical debut with Promising Young Woman, won an Oscar for her screenplay for that. Everyone was anticipating what her next theatrical follow-up would be, and this one is set in the it follows a young college student played by Perry Keegan or Keoghan. I know I always ask you this.
Right. I go Keegan because it's easier. That might not be it, but that's what I hear people say. So yeah, our boy.
And Perry Keegan or Keoghan, who is a very good actor, and this seems like this is going to be an even big. I mean, he already had a big come up being Oscar nominated, but looks like another potential big role for him too. He becomes infatuated with his aristocratic schoolmate, played by Jacob Elordi, and his wealthy but eccentric family. And the cast also includes Rosamund Pike, Richard E. Grant, and Alison Oliver, and Carey Mulligan, who was also in Promising Young Woman.
Right.
Another movie that premiered at the 50th Telluride Film Festival and got positive buzz out of it, even though they did mention that, it is going to be certainly polarizing. 82% on Rotten Tomatoes so far, with 17 critics having reviews posted. But I'm all in for divisive and polarizing. At least it's interesting.
Yes.
It looks interesting. It looks really good.
And it's a I don't know how to say it. The cinematography looks like a dream. Like it looks beautifully shot.
Oh yeah,
some great use of color in there. I did hear. So it was Telluride that this debuted at, not Venice.
Yeah, Telluride. Yeah,
okay.
Telluride,
so I wasn't sure, but I did hear from somebody or like online that it said if you see any movie at I thought it was Venice, but at Telluride, make sure it's Saltburn. And I was like, okay, that's one to keep an eye open for. Then watching the trailer, saw it yesterday, and then I rewatched it today, and I see why. It has me written all over it. I'm all about that movie. Love Barry Keoghan. Excited to see. Where do I recognize that the guy he's starring opposite side?
Jacob Elordi was on. He's on Euphoria. He's
okay,
one of the leads on Euphoria.
Is he
Nate? Nate, yeah.
Okay. I knew I recognized him. Yeah.
And I just mentioned this. Brittany used to be on the podcast. She works with Amazon, and she was talking to me about this movie the last time we hung out, like a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And she didn't really give away anything, but her excitement over talking about it,
right?
Like, it feels like it's going to be a really good. But she said the same thing too, that it's batshit crazy and it might be divisive, but it's never boring and it's very interesting. And it could be, I've heard for the screenplay and possibly for our boy Barry that he could get another nomination for.
I'm all about that. I have no qualms about him being nominated back-to-back years. I think he deserves everything. But yeah, shout out to Brittany. I don't know if I ever had the chance to mention this. I know she'd come up a couple times in the podcast, but right when I joined on and you would announce me, we followed each other and she gave me a little DM of encouragement, welcoming me to the show, and that was very heartwarming. So thank you, Brittany. I've been waiting.
That's very cool.
She's awesome.
We actually talked in that same conversation after she's done with like her stuff with like the Toronto Film Festival and everything, that she wants to kind of come on and like maybe have some chat with us about some of those films.
Sweet.
Like, all that stuff. So like, yeah, more than happy to have
Absolutely.
Brittany back on. But yeah, she seemed very excited for it. I'm excited. I loved Promising Young Woman. I don't know if you saw it.
I have not yet. No.
It was also a movie that was a lot. I mean, it was Carey Mulligan. I really was rooting for her to win Best Actress that year. Really good, like scary good. And and that movie, I mean, it has a lot to say about like essentially like the plot. She is this woman that she has this like kind of traumatic past, and one of her friends is like essentially like violently like raped, and then in order to get back at all these men who do this to women, she pursues them in a way that seems like something is going to happen.
She like seduces them
and then gives them their proper comeuppance.
Right.
And it's like it's good. It's like darkly funny in places. It's also really bleak in other places. But like it's the screenplay could have easily gone all over the place, but she kept it focused, even though there were so many ideas going on in it.
Okay.
But yeah, I was really looking forward to her follow up, and this looks like it's going to be a worthy one. So I'm excited for it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Promising Young Woman is, especially the more I see about it, I remember like when it was getting all the hype. It was 2021, 2020.
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, it's been in the periphery of my to watch list, which is like literally a million movies long. But definitely after seeing what I've seen from Saltburn, I'll probably watch Saltburn if I get the chance, if it comes locally here, and then that will probably bump up Promising Young Woman because I really like what I've seen from this director, which has been limited, admittedly, but still they can do a lot with a little that very few can do. So excited to see what becomes of this, and especially that comment about, if you see any movie at Telluride, make sure it's Saltburn really resonated. So I'm excited to see how this movie holds up.
That's the buzz phrase you want.
Yeah, exactly. That says a lot about your movie.
And also, just to give Emerald all the credit that she got for Promising Young Woman, she won Best Original Screenplay for it, but it was also nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress for Carey Mulligan, and Best Film Editing.
Holy.
So like, yeah, so it was a huge award season movie. And so good. Yeah.
Was that the year Frances McDormand won Best Actress?
I believe so. They're mine.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, who'd she lose? I was like, who'd she lose to? I was like, oh yeah.
That instantly came to mind too, but I couldn't think of it until right now. But I think it was for Nomadland, which I also haven't seen. That year I didn't see a lot of the noms, but
I saw it. I mean, it's good. I mean, I guess that's a discussion for another time. But I know when you're rooting for one person, you're like, oh well, I guess what she did seems like more challenging, but whatever. I mean, I like Frances McDormand. It's no big deal.
Yeah, exactly. But she has her Oscars. But anyway,
yeah, she does. Yeah.
All
right.
I want to move on to The Killer.
Yeah.
Why am I? Oh my God. I'm gonna lose my card here. I have David Lynch stuck in my head, and I can't think. David Fincher. Finch. I couldn't get his name out there, but yes, David Fincher's movie. I've seen, of all these trailers, The Killer the most now. I think I've seen it 4 times, that trailer.
Yeah.
A great teaser. Doesn't really tell you much about the plot, but shows you a little bit of Michael Fassbender in action and his character and what's going to happen to him. Not even really like where his character goes, but just like I said, seeing a little bit of what his character is going to be all about. And we don't even know a whole lot about the synopsis of this movie, and I feel like the trailer reflects that, and I think it's edited very well. I was very impressed with the Killer trailer. Can't come here soon enough. I know it's in November, I want to say 10th release.
Let's see.
November, Netflix.
October 27th.
I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Limited theatrical release October 27th, November 10th on Netflix.
Okay, there we go. That's what I was thinking of. Love that they're at least making an attempt to put it in theaters. I don't think Fincher's, I almost said Lynch again. I don't think David Fincher's last movie, Mank, got that treatment. Did it? Was it straight to Netflix?
I think it might have gotten a limited theatrical, so they had to.
Maybe
I think it had to because they had to qualify for Oscars.
Right. You're right. That being said, how many do you know about? He obviously must have signed some sort of contract with Netflix if his last 2 movies are.
Yeah, I think he signed some kind of deal with him. I don't know for how many movies though, but I think it was some.
They must have paid him handsomely.
Maybe like a first look deal, probably to release certain projects.
Okay.
Well, yeah, so this is a neo-noir action thriller directed by David Fincher. I'm excited because the screenplay is by Andrew Kevin Walker, who also wrote Seven, which is a great David Fincher movie. It's based on the French graphic novel series of the same name. And it stars Michael Fassbender, Arliss Howard, Charles Purnell, Carrie O'Malley, and Tilda Swinton, and his plot follows the assassin who gets embroiled in an international manhunt after a hit goes wrong. This one premiered at the Venice Film Festival on September 3rd. Right now, 84% on Rotten Tomatoes with 31 reviews counted. I'm just excited because it's David Fincher, and I've been
and him and Michael Fassbender together, fantastic pairing. Michael Fassbender, more so even than Tom Hardy, is on, unless I'm forgetting something significant, was on quite a downward streak for me, at least. He hasn't been in a movie that I've loved. He had a crazy streak in the 2010s. He couldn't miss, and he's one of my favorite actors, but I haven't seen anything from him in years that I really considered great or, hit or miss. So great to see him paired with such an, iconic director, and I think they're going to work really well together. So excited to see what he brings to the table. But what is the last Michael Fassbender movie that comes to mind?
I was trying to look this up, and I was like, I hope it wasn't what I thought it was.
Alien Covenant comes to mind. That's 6 years ago.
This is that bad. Okay, his last two releases were The Snowman, which is one of the worst movies on Rotten Tomatoes.
That movie sucked.
It was filmed in January 2016, but didn't come out until October 2017. It has a reputation for being very negatively reviewed, but then at one point it was the number one movie on Netflix. That happens a lot with really bad movies sometimes.
Have you seen that movie?
I haven't. I heard so many bad things about it.
Away. That movie's edited by a fifth grader. It's terrible. Yeah. Oh my God. Saw with my folks. Anyway, what else?
And then he followed up that cinematic gem in 2019 with Dark Phoenix.
I knew it was going to be an X-Men movie.
That was the last thing he was in.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize the gap was that long.
Nor did I.
Yeah, 3 years.
I thought it was Apocalypse that was his last X-Men movie, but you're right, Phoenix, and that was, I think Apocalypse was 2016. But Alien Covenant was the last one that came to mind. I don't blame people for not, thinking that highly of that movie. I really love Covenant, obviously, and I love him in it, especially in a dual role. But yeah, this is so 2019 is last, and for it to be Dark Phoenix, that is, I don't blame him for taking a little step back, but I think he's been busy filming some stuff, so.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see him in this, though, regardless. And this will be a return to form for him.
Yeah, and I love the look of the trailer. I love the vibe that it kind of gives off. I love that it wasn't too long.
Perfect.
It's just nice that we're getting something from Fincher, and good that Michael Fassbender's back in the game. I can't believe those were his last two movies. Well, this will redeem those. That will redeem those, hopefully. Definitely looking forward to that. And October 27th. Limited theatrical release, November 10th on Netflix. Pick your poison.
I hope this comes to my theater. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't, but definitely want to go see that on the biggest screen possible. But I'll be seeing it regardless. I don't have a Netflix subscription right now, and I will be getting it for October, November for this. Sure.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Is it my turn or your turn? I'm lost count.
I think it's you, and it's our last one.
Oh, is it our good old Ferrari?
Yes, Michael Mann.
And Adam Driver.
Mm-hmm.
Which is this is interesting. All right, so Michael Mann, oh my God, he hasn't done anything in a while either, right?
You're beating me to it. I was literally IMDbing him right now.
And I think that is one of the main reasons people are excited for this. I think it's been a bit since he's done something. I just want to make sure. But I think it has been a while. Ferrari is a biographical sports film directed by Michael Mann and written by Troy Kennedy Martin about Enzo Ferrari, the Italian founder of the car manufacturer Ferrari. And it's based on the 1991 biography Enzo Ferrari, The Man and the Machine by motorsport journalist Brock Yates. This film was selected to compete for the Golden Lion at the 80th Venice International Film Festival on August 31st. It's scheduled to be released on Christmas Day, December 25th at Neon. This is significant too because Neon is a independent distributor in the way that A24 is.
Yeah,
so they were
cousin studios.
Yeah, so the actors were able to go and talk about the movie and promote it at the Venice Film Festival.
Nice.
So that was nice as well. And that some of those cast members include Adam Driver and Penelope Cruz, Shane Woodley, Gabrielle Leone, Sarah Gadon, and Jack O'Connell, and Patrick Dempsey. Also,
Jack O'Connell's in this. I did not see his name. I love him.
Yeah, so pretty good cast. I think that's the only thing that it has a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes right now, 35 critics.
I mean, that's a lot
so far. That's pretty good. And I think what I also read from live people that saw this at that festival, that the same thing that the Bikeriders were. It's like it's good, but its potential for awards
is severely hindered, probably
by competition. It just depends on like competition. They need to be like great in order to be like, all right, it'll leapfrog over all these other movies, but it just depends on like what it's up against.
Right.
But they said, like, one reviewer said something interesting, that it's a little slow to start, but once it gets going, it's really fantastic watch once it like kind of hits its stride. I mean, it's 130 minutes, so it's long.
Yeah.
I still think it looks interesting. I also like there was another short teaser that didn't really show too much, and I like the cast, and I'm excited for it.
Adam Driver is like a favorite of mine too. I think he looks great in the role. Definitely going to be a costume and makeup heavy movie too. Like I'm sure it might even sneak in for awards consideration for those departments, hopefully, if not anything else. But yeah, no, looking forward to this. I gotta say, like, I didn't like this trailer as much as I anticipated I would. That being said, there's nothing I didn't like about it. It's just like maybe some more promotion will kind of get my excitement really up. I am excited for the movie, and one I've been looking forward to since looking at 2023's release calendar. But I guess I was with so many other great trailers. I guess this one kind of like it lost some glimmer. But on that note of Michael Mann, his last movie was Black Hat, that Chris Hemsworth like espionage movie.
Did it get good reviews, but it flopped? I think it got good reviews.
Well, on IMDb, it's sitting at a 5.4. That was 2015, and it's got I don't see 51 Metascore, so pretty much on the same path there. I don't think it was very well received, but
oh no, you're right. I think some other Chris Hemsworth movie. It has a 32% on Tomatoes. Sorry guys, yikes! No one liked it.
No, and no, I missed my list back in the day. I remember when it came out. But no, it's been 8 years since his last movie. He did a series last year, one episode of a series called Tokyo Vice last year, but that's hard to really count. But been a long time for Michael Mann. So this is definitely a project with his name all over it. I'm excited for this. The car sequences look great too.
Yeah, they look like they're shot really well.
Yeah.
What all these movies I think have in common is that they all look great. They all look very nice. They're like cinematography game on point for all of these releases.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that we didn't have any, like, I mean, of course, it's kind of fun to be like, oh, I didn't enjoy that one. But I'm glad that they were all good trailers, and it's like something to look forward to. And it's especially important, like with the strikes and everything going on, and like these movies releasing trailers indicates that they're not delaying them, at least right now. So like these are movies that are coming and they're going to get released. So like I think that was what was also nice, that they were good. Like, oh, there's something to look forward to from like 8 movies that we ran through and a decent amount of time. So like good for us.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. Cause we had a half-hour conversation about Rotten Tomatoes to begin with. So that was even less time. So yeah, good for us. That was great. And 2023, we're on, oh my God, we're 75% done the year, and we still have some insane movies coming out, and very exciting next few months for sure. Yeah. Very exciting for that.
And okay, well, I guess we have box office now.
Yeah.
Right? So you happen to have the numbers that we
our guesses? Okay. I do. Yes.
All right, cool. So the Nun 2 actually did premiere it kind of in where tracking said it would.
Okay.
$32 million opening weekend.
Okay.
Actually 32.6 million. That is a 39% decline from the Nun's 53.8 million opening in 2018, but that was to be like, expected. A lot of people thought, like, people had a pretty polarizing reaction to the first one, and it is what it is. But it's still like these movies are very cheap to make.
Exactly. That doesn't really mean anything.
this can fall off a cliff next week, and it is still going to make a profit.
Exactly.
So, and then I guess it had a global opening of 85 million worldwide. So, pretty good. What were the guesses that we? What were the predictions that we had?
Guesses. So Dean and Alex from our guests from last episode on Return, Revenge, Resurrection. Dean won, I guess, came closest. He went with 35 million, and he said it opened to 32.5. So good for you, Dean. Congrats, Alex. And you both went with 40 million. I went with 39. So we were all above. I guess it came under, and tracking was, I want to say, what was tracking? 38. I think I went close to it.
Close to it, yeah. So I mean, it was kind of where everyone thought it would kind of fall. I mean, it's
not too bad.
It's not a bad opening. That means we're probably going to get more Conjuring universe movies. I don't know if we need any more Nun movies. I mean, I
can see them just capping off a trilogy. I don't know what kind of story they're going to tell. I think I might be seeing this movie tomorrow. I'm going to a neighboring province for some testing, and Cam's actually there too for separate reason. And I think we're going to link. I don't think there's anything else really in theaters that catches our attention. So this might be it. I'm sure I'll let everyone know next week, but I'm thinking I might see this tomorrow. I hope so, actually, because I'm excited. I don't love the first one, but I think I like it. It seems like a little bit more than you, although not a perfect movie by any means. But I think there's some sequences in this movie that I'm looking forward to. And it's been a while since I've been spooked. So hopefully you can do that. But
all right. Well, speaking of spooky, we have to predict a spooky release. This
kind
weekend.
of. Yeah, we'll see if it actually ends up being that way. Yeah.
Unless the trailers are just like lied to us and it's not really spooky and it's just, all smoke and mirrors.
Right.
But it's A Haunting in Venice. This is the third installment from Kenneth Branagh's mystery. Was it Hercule? How do you pronounce the last name?
Poirot. Yeah, I mean, that's bad French accent aside.
Like that. Famous from like famous detective from like the Agatha Christie novels. He's already directed Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, and this is the third installment. 78% so far on Rotten Tomatoes. Reviews are decent, and I liked the first two movies. I thought they were fun. Little like throwback old school mystery movies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested in seeing this because I like the potential of the supernatural twist if they are really going to do that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And let me see if I can pull up some numbers. So these are going to be a little different because Murder on the Orient Express came out during a healthy time for movie going, and Death on the Nile came out during the pandemic, so it's a little different. But Murder on the Orient Express, thanks to having such a big like international ensemble cast, opened to 28.6 million when it came out in 2017.
Okay.
On a $55 million budget, it ended up making 102.8 million domestic and $352.7 million worldwide.
Okay.
And then Death on the Nile is a bit different, like we said, because it came out in 2022 when theaters weren't completely 100% open to full capacity. So it opened to 12.8 million.
Ooh, that's a drop.
It made 45.6 million domestic and 137.3 million worldwide, which I guess is still good considering like everywhere we're still being affected by the pandemic at that time. So it's going to be interesting to kind of weigh these. So they're like, released at two very different times, and it potentially Death on the Nile, if it would have been released in a perfect cinematic environment, it may have done just as well as Murder on the Orient Express.
Certain it would have. It must have been delayed too. There's no way they went 5 years.
It got delayed too. Yeah.
Okay.
And it had like Gal Gadot in the lead, and so they had that problematic like Army Hammer problem. But I mean, what they're gonna do about that?
I forgot about that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
But I think it still could have done better if it was released in a normal time.
I'm sure you're right.
So that being said,
tracking.
It's in the low 20s right now.
Okay. Shit.
And
you feeling any particular way about this one? I would probably go. I don't want to just go safe and meet tracking, but like I don't really think this is gonna be, the blockbuster that it might want to be. But it could be. Also, it's a spooky season. It's leading into that trend. that time of year.
Yeah.
So I feel like that could be, I mean, but we do have the Nun 2 that just came out. So maybe people's appetites for spooky have been wet so far. I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless,
I'm gonna,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going 18.
Okay. I had 20 in my head when I was saying that. So fair enough. A little bit of a gap. Just a little insight, because I was looking up the book. I Googled it just because I was curious if the genre of the book was described as horror, to see if that would if that would lend any credence to how the adaptation might go. And just the first little blurb on Google is, Haunting in Venice is set in eerie post-World War II Venice on All Hallows Eve and is a bolded, terrifying mystery featuring the return of the celebrated sleuth Hercule Poirot. So hopefully that I'd like for this movie to actually lead into the supernatural kind of twist that the trailer is leading us to believe it will be. Yeah. So I would think that would be a really welcome turn in this series. So hopefully it's as spooky as it looks. And unfortunate that's kind of low, but maybe it'll surprise us.
Yeah, I think it's a little low, but I mean, I guess also they play better. I mean, more international. So because Kenneth Branagh is a pretty big director in that regard too, like worldwide. And he also assembles like a pretty diverse cast that appeals to like so many different. Like this one has Michelle Yeoh, Tina Fey, Jimmy Dornan's in this too. Like there's a lot of different types in this. So I don't know. It looks good. I'm looking forward to it. So I mean, if it goes above what we're saying, that'd be great.
Exactly.
I think that's kind of where it's landing.
All the power to it, though, for sure. I like Kenneth Branagh a lot. I mean, he's directed some interesting movies, like the first couple of Thors, but he's one of those rare good actor/director hybrids, and I really like him. So hoping for the best for his movie.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I am glad we were able to keep this episode pretty short.
And I like that we had some news finally to deliver to. I mean, I'm happy just to cover spooky season, like horror only, but it's nice. There's a lot in there for us to get out, and it's been sort of a hectic last few months news wise. So good to still get that out there and makes for an extra episode. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. That it makes, I think that wraps up, unless there's anything else. Episode that's 120. I was thinking about this before we recorded. We are now a fifth of the way to our second 100th episode, and it's crazy how quickly that seemed like we were just doing 100. So crazy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. So that's 120. Stay tuned, guys. We have episode 121 is coming up shortly, where we're going to be covering The Wailing, getting back on track to spooky season. For those of you that maybe are just joining us, you guys can find us anywhere you guys get your podcast. Most recently, iOS users can find us on Playlist app on the iOS store. So stay tuned for that. And I believe that it will be coming shortly too for Samsung users. Check us out on all our socials too, at Back to the Blockbuster. Those of you that have been following us for a while, thank you so much for tuning in, interacting. We love you guys. Couldn't do it without you. And thanks again for tuning in this week. We'll talk to you later.
Peace.
Peace out, guys.
Perfect.